Welcome back to Health Matters. With me now to talk about inflammation is holistic nutritionist Kareem Premji. Welcome, Kareem.
Hi, Lana. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm super. Glad to be here today.
Aw, thank you. Okay, inflammation. Describe the process of it for us.
All right. Well, as we all know, when we get a cut, the inflammatory process begins. And it's actually a natural process that's actually good for the body. And the cardinal signs that we are typically aware of are the pain, the swelling, the redness, and the lack of motion in those areas. So traditionally, that's what happens. That's what most people are aware of when they look at the inflammatory process.
Is all inflammation bad, or?
No. Part of the healing process is you do want those blood vessels to open up. You want the immune system to go in there and help fight whatever is going on. But all inflammation isn't bad. What we find is the hidden inflammation or the silent inflammation, which is bad. And usually that's the chronic issues that usually come from an irritant, something that isn't going away. So the body is in this constant cycle of trying to get rid of it, or this ongoing healing, but it never stops.
That's interesting. So say more about the difference between acute and chronic inflammation.
Yeah, absolutely. Acute inflammation is when you have that injury, for example. The body goes in, it tries to heal itself. But then with chronic inflammation, we have other sources. Things that are, as I said, irritants to the body that the body can't really remove easily. And so the symptoms are constant. They continue going on. And so that normal process gets skewed. You continuously have other health issues that begin to pop up.
Psychologists have found that, stress, we know, causes inflammation, but it suppresses the immune system now, and so the body can't generate that inflammation response during an acute cycle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Stress plays a huge role in inflammation. We're noticing there's studies out there that show that it has an effect on the immune system and your ability to deal with the common cold, for example. But what's also key is toxins. I mean, if you look at the food we eat, the air that we're breathing in, the water that we drink, all of those types of toxins, and even the toxins that are produced inside of our body, your body has to deal with those.
Sure.
And a lot of the times they get deep-rooted into the tissues, and the body has a really hard time getting rid of them. And so that immune system response kicks in, and it gives you those internal inflammatory responses, which creates this ongoing cycle. So what we find is that's a huge issue for a lot of people. Secondly, we look at things like deficiencies. Your body has to continuously replenish itself, rebuild those cells from ground up, and you need the basic constituents. You need those amino acids, you need those healthy fats, you need those vitamins, you need those minerals, you need water and oxygen. And if any of those things are missing, the cells become weak. And if you have too many weak cells, that's going to create some type of health issue.
You brought some wonderful food.
Yes.
Tell us about your food.
Yeah, one of the ways to deal with inflammation is to incorporate some healthy foods into your diet. Some of the best anti-inflammatory foods are pretty common, and some of them are a bit more unique. Things like cruciferous vegetables, like your cauliflower and your broccoli, are really good. For your intestinal tract, things like cabbage, ginger, or using turmeric as a spice. Even cherries are amazing, and so are beets. What you're really looking for in foods are the bioflavonoids. One of my favorite foods actually is a fruit. It's called the nopal cactus.
Tell us about that, from the desert.
Yes, it's actually from the Sonoran Desert. It's the prickly pear. And because it's in such a harsh, inflamed environment, the plant has adapted and it's created these bioflavonoids. Basically, these are the pigments that give it that deep red, rich color.
And what do they do to the cells?
Well, number one, they protect the cells, because a lot of cells, because of toxins, they will actually pop. So it prevents that popping from happening. It also helps clear out some of those toxins that are in your bloodstream. So using food as medicine can be really healing, and some of these are great to include in your diet.
Where can people here in Canada get that part of the cactus?
Well, the nopal cactus, ironically, I got at the local health food store.
Did you?
Yeah, you can get it there. You can also get it at most grocery stores.
Okay, is it in season now?
It is, so they are importing it right now. This is a great time to have it. And of course, if you don't have access to the nopal cactus pear, go for cherries.
How do you eat the pear?
I like to just open it up and
Okay.
just eat it, but you do have to be careful because it does have those little prickly things, so be sure to wash it
Sure.
or else you'll be stuck with some
Sure.
things in your hands.
What is the C-reactive protein in the testing?
Okay, C-reactive protein is a biomarker for inflammation, and there's a lot of research going into it. In fact, in the women's health study, the women's Harvard study, they found that they looked at 12 different biomarkers for inflammation. CRP was one of them. 3 years later, they found that it was more of a predictor for heart disease than all the other biomarkers. So they found that women who had high levels of C-reactive protein were 4 times more likely to have a heart attack.
Wow.
So getting tested for CRP is definitely important. And it's a simple test that your doctor can do when you go for your cholesterol test, for example.
Okay. And your naturopathic doctor, I'm sure, can...
They can also do that as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's really great. Okay, talk about maybe the immune system and inflammation, diseases. How do they all fit together?
Yeah, what we're finding is that the inflammation process has other areas of health that it affects. For example, let's look at people who have a lot more fat tissue. Fat tissue has an inflammatory response as well. There's a hormone called leptin. Basically, leptin is secreted and it tells your brain, hey, I've got enough food. I feel okay. I don't need to eat anymore. But when you have inflammation, you begin to get leptin resistance. So your body no longer knows and you continue to eat. You add more fat tissue and the cycle continues. That's one example. Another example, like you mentioned, is anger or stress. They've done studies to show that even just arguing for a bit of time increases your level of inflammatory proteins, and that has an effect on your immune system. So you definitely want to calm down. That's huge for inflammation.
Kareem, thank you. We can go on and on and talk about this.
Yes.
Please come back to talk more about inflammation. It was a pleasure speaking with you tonight. Thank you very much for joining us on Health Matters. As a final note, I'll leave you with a quote from Ed Nordstrom. He says, "It's no coincidence that the 4 letters in the word health are heal." Have a wonderful evening. Apples deserve to be called nutritional powerhouses. Along with containing vitamin C and B, the phytonutrients and antioxidants in apples may help reduce the risk of developing cancer, hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease.